This is one of over 500 assisted PNF stretching demonstrations that can be found as part of my 80 Days to Your Dream Body course, which is available to my channel members. If you'd like to see all of them, then consider becoming a member. But for right now, let's get our stretch on. And while we're resting, we are going to continue with our assisted PNF stretching demonstration at the glenohumeral joint. And right now, we are going to be focusing on the horizontal shoulder adductors, adductors, the muscles that bring the arm in toward the midline. And in this variation, we're going to be targeting the intermediate fibers of the sternal attachment of the pectoralis major. And to do that, we want to bring the patient's arm into coronal abduction away from the midline abduction of 90 degrees. We want the arm in a neutral position. We don't want the patient medially or laterally rotated. So we're going to take that arm, we're going to go into 90 degrees of coronal abduction so that the humerus is perpendicular to the spine or the axial body. And then from this position right over here, we have a couple of different options available. One option is we could have the hand at the distal humerus and the proximal radius and ulna right at the crook of the elbow, and we can stabilize at the scapula and get the PNF and the stretch that way. We could also switch to the other side, whatever's more comfortable for you. Me personally, I would not prefer to do this because if you have a patient who's very, very large, very, very strong, they're going to be able to pull you quite easily, and you're going to have to use a lot of muscle, and you could strain your own body. So for me, I would prefer to use my body's leverage points. That way I'm not straining my body. And to do that, I would take the greater trochanter of my femur and I would sandwich it right up against the patient's scapula. And then I would go elbow to elbow with the patient. So I would go crook of my elbow to the crook of the patient's, lock my hand onto the bicep, and then lock the hand at the proximal radius and ulna. From here, all I need to do now is just stand up to traction, and I could just lean away to take them into coronal shoulder abduction. And then from here, I would instruct the patient to inhale and give me a pec fly. They would inhale, go into horizontal shoulder adduction, and as they exhale and relax, I'm going to traction to create some space and take them deep into coronal shoulder abduction to target those adductors. When we are focusing on the horizontal shoulder adductors at 90 degrees of coronal abduction, primarily the emphasis is going to be on those intermediate fibers of the sternal attachment of the pectoralis major. So remember, with regard to the sternal attachment, we have those superior fibers that run downward and obliquely. We have the intermediate fibers that are horizontally oriented, and then we have the inferior fibers that run on an upward diagonal. So at 90 degrees of coronal abduction, we're targeting those intermediate or horizontally oriented fibers of the sternal attachment of the pectoralis major. We will be getting a little bit of the clavicular attachment as well, but not nearly as much as we are in the sternal attachment. And then we're also going to be getting some of the anterior deltoid as well, because when the arm is abducted to 90 degrees, the anterior deltoid is going to act as a horizontal adductor. Some other muscles that will be involved, we will be getting a little bit of stretch in the coracobrachialis as well. And then we're not going to be directly targeting the latissimus dorsi or the teres major. However, because both of them are adductors in the coronal plane and they are medial rotators, when we are in this neutral position at 90 degrees of coronal abduction, we will be getting a little bit of tension on that muscle, but not nearly as much as if we were to go more into those higher levels of registered with regard to the coronal abduction. At 90 degrees, though, the main emphasis in that neutral position of 90 degrees of coronal abduction is going to be the intermediate fibers of the sternal attachment of the pectoralis major. And then during the next rest period, we're going to start working distally now, and we're going to start working a little bit more superficially now at the glenohumeral joint, and we're going to work on the pectoralis major. But for right now, our rest period is up. Time for the 8th and final set. That was just a tiny taste of what can be found in my members only section. If you enjoyed it, become a member for only $5 a month to get access to hundreds of member only videos.